us as farmers, our family, goes back quite a long way, actually. Our business started on my grandmother's back porch in 1944. She was basically doing what we would call milk money, right? She had 50 chickens in the backyard and was selling eggs to her neighbors and to a couple small stores in Glendale, Arizona. We've been an Arizona company now for that long. But we actually go back a little bit further. That is my grandfather, and that is my dad in a stroller in 1929 in Kansas, where she had a little business doing the same thing. So, as quick as I can, this is just kind of a few historical photos that you might see about what we were all the way from 1944 to about I think the most recent picture up there was 1998, bringing what we would call new technology to get out of those nasty, off-the-ground, cage-free eggs to that bottom picture there that says, my dad got a premium for cage-laid eggs, 1963. Separating and all those consumers went, oh great, we don't have to even think about those chickens on the ground eating that stuff. Now we got a great food source there. My grandmother's open-air building in 1951 or so, that's my brother Billy gathering eggs in the latest model egg gathering cart, 1974. That's what we've become. So in 1998 we decided we had 300,000 birds in one farm, and all of us decided to mortgage our houses, sell our cars, and everything else, because we knew that if we don't get bigger quick, we're either going to get swallowed up or lose our whole market. At that point, California was producing a lot of eggs and sending a lot of eggs into our state. So from, like I said, 1998 when we broke ground there on Arlington South to 2011, we now went from 300,000 birds to 5 million birds in our own farms. So that's a little bit of a peek. Arlington North is our newest farm. So we have 3 farms in Arizona, 1 cage-free farm on the bottom in Valley Center, California. Even the chickens like to live in San Diego more than Phoenix year-round. So Maricopa is on the Auction Indian Reservation, Grand Junction, Colorado, for our Denver business, and so on and so on. Actually, Arlington North, what I was going to say is that's the original 5 barns. I guess this is about the only overview that you can see. In each one of those barns, there's 180,000 birds per, 2 football fields long. The chickens live in what I like to call a swamp-cooled wind tunnel. Works pretty well. That's another thing. Some of the industries, as we grew a little bit larger, we went into other things. It's almost like as a family member comes on board, hey, what do you want to do in the egg business? Well, it's not being done. So, liquid egg breaking plant, our shell egg plant, hard cooked plant, and various other things. That's our birds living in style there. Talk about, over these last couple years, regulations, guys. I mean, that seems like it's a growth industry on its own. So there are things up there that what we do on the left-hand side is our Chicken Bill of Rights sign that's on every door leading into every barn that we own, saying how you are going to behave as an adult in this barn and what will be tolerated and what won't be tolerated. We're also, I believe, Rod, the first state to set minimum care standards for hens in the United States. So what we did was we were a proud member of the United Egg Producers Animal Care Certified, so we decided to make sure that if anybody was going to build an egg farm in Arizona, those chickens had to be kept in those standards. As well as the eggs sold in the state have to be under that standard. And on the right-hand side, I got to attend the meeting about the FDA egg safety rule. So that was wonderful. Been working on a long time, and all of a sudden, egg recall and hello FDA. So we've been trying to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything possible. Let me tell you one thing that's one of our highest. I thought feed cost is high. But as it stands right now, our biosecurity, our voluntary oversight by the USDA in our plants, the 4 to 5 people that we have working every day on the farm, we pay over $1 million of basically voluntary fees just in order to assure the public that our food is safe from the farm. So, and I thought, when the egg recall occurred, I was so glad to have that, because I could sit there and talk about it all day long about what we do on our farm. And then 9 months removed, we have people that don't do all these voluntary things saying, hey, we can beat Hickman's price by a couple cents a dozen, and now I'm talking to the grocers talking about why we spend that much money. So 9 months, that's not much of a time to think about stuff. So I'm going to go next into what we do a little bit, and that was pretty. Here's a quick little story. I was watching Dirty Jobs, and for several years, I think it's been on since 2006, I believe, maybe 2005. And I got to watch Mike Rowe go on to these farms and talk about poo and anything gross that he could get his hands on. And I thought, there's going to be a day where Mike Rowe goes to an egg farm. And it is either going to be great for our industry or it's going to be horrible for our industry. And if you remember, he filmed it in 2008. That was the year of Proposition 2 in California. So I wanted to make sure that if he was going to go on an egg farm, I wanted to be one of those guys that could control that message, and he's only going to go to an egg farm once. So I thought it would be best. So I asked my brothers, can I make that invitation to Dirty Jobs to come out? My oldest brother, Glenn, president of our farm, said, I don't know, maybe. I said yes. My brother Billy, who is the person in charge of all of our operations, and all those people answering him, said, hell no. But we watched it together. It turned out all right. Mike was, at the end of that filming, he and his crew, which is basically a bunch of Boy Scouts on steroids because all they do is hit each other, were at the farm, and they were saying, no, you got to come home with the crew. And they were just sitting there, and I was like, guys, I can't leave until you get off my farm. So Mike said, hey, can you take me to the airport? So I got an hour of his time driving to the airport, talking about animal rights, the crisis that animal agriculture is undergoing. And he said, hey, you know what? I've been on a lot of farms. I've met a lot of great families. Let me know what I can do to help. And I think that maybe some of you have seen some of the things that Mike has done recently, and hopefully that'll continue to grow. Now, especially as he grows in popularity, Ford Motor Company, Lee Jeans, all that stuff. But maybe if we can just keep inserting those celebrities that understand modern farming practices and what we go through, it'll help all of us in the long run. And the reason why we need that kind of help is this. Did I get your attention? Well, because they get a lot of attention. You get these kind of little stunts. This one, I think, occurred in Washington, D.C., but that's what our people do. And I want to continue to say, here's the agricultural guys that are feeding your family, and then you got people like that. I can believe that one up front's a vegan. I can't believe the one on the left, though. Healthy tan, beautiful hair. Okay. Proposition 2. Proposition 2 occurred in California in 2008. But a lot of you might or might not be aware that in 2006, Arizona had its own Proposition 2, which was Proposition 204. But they left battery cages off. And I have a feeling they left it off because we're the only commercial egg producer in Arizona and have been for a lot of years. And I think what the animal activist crowd found out is, well, pork doesn't have a strong brand that's grown in Arizona. Veal doesn't even have any facilities. But we're going to have to take on the Hickman family. But I liken Proposition 204 and the hogwash campaign to having $1 million lesson on the pork industry's dime. And I got to see just how our state fought it and lost. And then when Proposition 2 was coming up, I spent a year telling everybody, this is guys, California, hell is about to become upon you. We got to figure out something how to fight these guys. And it lost by the same margin. We didn't do a good job in California either. What we found out on the opponent's strategy is on 204 is they used a celebrity called Sheriff Joe, and Sheriff Joe, the toughest state sheriff in the nation. Our guys were talking about should we use Sheriff Joe in some capacity, and the other side got him first, and he talked against farming. So we went into hyperdrive, and started to talk about what our family does, why we do it, and why we have chickens in cages in Arizona. It's really easy argument to make in August. If I get any animal agricultural people boycotting us, I want to make sure it's in August, because they're going to want to go in my buildings and get cooled down for a little bit. We also reach out to all political spectrums. We always remember that not only hardcore, die-in-the-wool, staunch agricultural Republicans buy our eggs, but we also know that Democrats, Catholics, Mormons, atheists, all of them eat our eggs. So we can't afford to not reach out to everybody, including the retailer. The retailer industry, that's our person that's talking to their end consumer. So we want to absolutely make sure that retailer takes our side. Also, I wore this shirt, okay? I didn't wear the tie and the jacket, sorry guys. But I wanted, like any cattleman knows, branding. Okay, so instead of a hot iron, all of our people walk around with shirts, and no matter where they're at, I just bombard our workers with Hickman shirts. So as they're out in the community, I want people to ask them those questions and talk about what they do. As well as every vehicle that is owned by Hickman Family Farms is, if not a full vinyl wrap, has Hickmans all over that thing talking about what we do. Turning a waste stream into a revenue stream, we sell eggs, but we also produce a whole lot of poo. And something that's been really helpful to us is our fertilizer division. And we could talk about the composting of chickens. And things like that. So we want to make sure that we tell our environmental side of the story as much as we possibly can. So I always just say, hey, everything goes and everything pushes on more food to you. So our largest buyer is the organic vegetable grower for the vegans. And that's a whole lot of fun talking about composting chickens to push up organic vegetables, let me tell you. Some people make the connection, other people don't, but I'm willing to try it. We also do, as Rod said, we do a lot of tours as long as the tours are to meaningful groups. And meaningful groups, I don't know. Boy Scouts, I don't want to wrangle, 7 Boy Scouts that just split like little baby chicks. Off they go, and I hope that they don't put their hands in something I don't want them to put them in. But every governor that we've had for the last 3 years have been out to our farm. Mom bloggers talking about social media. The American Egg Board asked, hey, can we have these influential mom bloggers come out to an egg farm and show them what you guys do so they can understand egg production. And so, of course, the American Egg Board was smart. They put them at the Wigwam Spa, and they got all spa treatment and everything, and then sent them to the egg farm. And I felt it went really well until I talked to that brother Billy again. My brother Billy, who doesn't mince words, I said, hey, how'd you feel that went? That was really nice, wasn't it? And he said, yeah, let's just burn the libraries down. So what do you mean by that? And he goes, why in the world do we have to sit there and operate and educate ourselves on people's opinion? What do these moms know about our operation? What do they know? It's like, that is the way of the world, isn't it? Right now we are all going off opinion before it gets to be science. So let's make sure we curry favor with those opinion makers wherever they may be. Hey, we do events. We think of all sorts of stuff. In fact, this year we had an eggnog competition. It's the first time we sent our mascot into a bar setting. My parents weren't too happy with that, but they didn't have to go. We talk about what we do at Phoenix Magazine. High, glossy, wonderful, beautiful pictures, and that's our chickens staring, 500 feet down a row. This was one of the biggest risks we ever took. On the left-hand side, Linda Valdez, a very left-leaning columnist, wrote a story on the left-hand side that was printed on a Saturday saying benefits of factory farms. I mean, she pasted animal agriculture like nobody's business, if you read all that the way through. So what do farmers do? We call or we send a letter, and we're mad. I was mad. I read it and said, but I called her and said, hey, come out to the farm and take a look and see what we do. And before you come out here, make sure you come out with an open mind, because I'm gonna give you anything you want to see, any kind of figures. So she saw that, and when I knew I was going to be probably pretty good, is after she looked at it, I said, are you going to write about it? And she told me, only if I get to see a cage-free flock, because I want to write about what I know. So I took her to our cage-free flock and showed her mortality records and everything else, and she wrote a fantastic article during 2008. That was a really sweaty night because she called me on a Saturday and said, the column's going to run in the Sunday paper. It's like, oh my God. So I was sweating bullets because I still had that threat of brotherly violence upon me. Anybody know what this is? And I'm going to end right here. Anybody know what that is? That is a major lesson that I learned. All in one shot. On the left-hand side is what I saw at Arizona Republic. Photographer who I was friends with came and took a beautiful picture of Brandon Gilman in our farm. And on the bottom, that's what printed out on the front page. Brandon, right there on their website, is the true picture. And I called the reporter after this, and the reporter, who I gave a plethora of information to, and had her talk to different farmers, rolled right back into the let's let Wayne Pacelli talk for animal agriculture and all about the horribleness, and then whatever the farmer says into defense, let's print that. So it just became the same old, even though we were sitting there talking about, hey, this is what the Humane Society is and what they want. Valuable lesson. I will never talk about animal rights unless I get to see that reporter face to face. And I had no idea about photo editors. Why would you bring, or even think that they need to take artistic license and make it look like Darth Vader? So that was a lesson we learned this year. But still, we're going to keep reaching out. We're going to keep doing the same thing and talk about what we do.